All right, so we just watched Space Jam: A New Legacy. It was absolutely hilarious. If you haven't seen it yet, check our no spoiler review and then come back here and watch this after you've seen it. All right, welcome back to the Circle Club. I'm Tyrone.
I'm Matt.
So we're talking Space Jam: A New Legacy. Spoilers, like I said, if you haven't seen it, make sure you go and see it. If not, check out our yeah. So Matt, there was a lot of funny moments in Space Jam: A New Legacy. What was one that really stood out to you, or like a moment you really enjoyed?
There was a few, and they all kind of worked together. But like LeBron just making fun of himself was something I didn't expect to see coming into the movie. Like there's a line I think it's between the algorithm character and LeBron where he's like, "Hey man, you're used to leaving. You left Cleveland, you left Miami, you left Cleveland again, and stuff like that." And then when he's putting together the Toon Squad, he's like, "Hey, this ain't the Miami Heat. You can't get all these superheroes."
Right,
so just like LeBron James kind of poking fun at himself, the GOAT conversation being a thing.
Right.
Like that kind of like was like, okay, this isn't just like, an ego boost. Like this is a comedy.
Well, so yeah, I agree. Like when I was watching at first, and I'm a big LeBron James fan, no secret. But as I was watching, I was like, this in the beginning, it felt like, all right, is this like an ego thing for LeBron?
Exactly,
or like we're just gonna be like singing his praises the whole thing.
Skip Bayless right about
it? Yeah, right.
He's trying to be Jordan or beat Jordan, and you just can't.
Skip, he took it in a totally different direction.
Original. That's what it was.
And guess what? The original was originally bad.
Because the whole time we're like, in the beginning, it's like the king, the guy who saved Cleveland, and then like, they do the big presentation, and it's like, it's like, oh, he's gonna be in Hogwarts, and he's, Game of Thrones, and then it's like, all right, like, if this is gonna be like, LeBron off for like a few hours, then
I can stay home for that.
Yeah, exactly. We could have turned on
TNT,
ESPN, or like, that was actually a really funny line too, the TNT line. So,
Bugs Bunny, he's riding on the train. He's like, "Hey, we got TNT here," and he throws like dynamite.
Right, yeah. So there was just a lot of really good basketball funny references. I mean, the Vince Carter, Dame time. I don't know if you're not a basketball fan, those things might go over your head. But there was so much good physical humor, too.
The slapstick Looney Tunes humor was back in full force.
Yeah.
It felt very reminiscent of the old cartoons. Like you'd see on Boomerang and stuff like that.
I mean, we started out even in the beginning when they're playing basketball. You got LeBron James Jr. and Darius, I believe his name is. They're playing, and then like he's trying to do a move, and like Darius is like showing off, and he gets hit in the head with a basketball. And it's just like that, like old school, like slapstick physical humor. It's like
the timing was good.
Yeah, and you just really appreciated it.
What was your favorite part?
So one moment I really liked, well, there was a ton. I'm a big Harry Potter fan, Game of Thrones, all that stuff. So that whole montage scene where LeBron's going through and they're trying to collect tunes, and Bugs Bunny's like, and actually gets his buddies. I thought that was funny. I really liked how they went into the Superman world, and the animation was the same style.
It was a classic animation style from the old animated series. Very nice to see.
Yeah, and then the Matrix, where we watched it.
Oh my god!
But Granny's behind the Matrix, which ends up coming back as a joke in the end. I was like, oh, that's amazing.
It's very true.
Like, so they did that. That was really, that was something they did really well. One thing that made the entire audience just crack up. So as I'm watching this, I'm like, there's all these like 90s and 2000s references. And like I said, we specifically went to watch it in the theater so that we can, get the reaction of kids. We went to we went to an early show. That way we get more younger audience's reaction. And it seemed like, family and kids all had a good time.
Yeah, kids standing up, screaming, and like
there was a little girl next to us. She couldn't be more than 5. She was like, "Granny, I love Granny." She was awesome.
She loved Granny.
But there was, so as I'm watching this, I'm like, are they getting the references? Is it over their head? But it didn't matter. They were really enjoying it. And then one moment happens where Rick and Morty show up, and we're all like, what?
Like, what the heck?
It was so unexpected. Like, I don't know, like you were expecting like King Kong and Iron Giant and like, the intellectual property that WB owns. And then like,
I guess we didn't.
Yeah, you completely forget. You're like, oh, Rick and Morty, HBO, So that was a really funny moment. All the kids, like, it was like one of those like despicable memes. It was like that.
I'm surprised how many kids knew about it.
Oh, I know. So
that was a great scene.
That was an awesome moment to share with people in the audience. And I think that's one of the special things about going to the movie theaters. Like, a lot of people have said, oh, well, I have HBO Max. Why am I going to go to the theater? I think, for certain movies that is true, but some movies you just really want an audience reaction.
And it heightens the experience of it. And you can't discount how good that first time watching a movie is with other people. Like with a crowd, you tend to get more excited. It's infectious.
Right. And so that was just a moment that I really enjoyed because it felt like, hey, welcome back to the movie theaters, Yeah, so though there was another moment that happened that we were just cracking up. Yeah. So as we're watching this, the Looney Tunes are down by 1,000 points.
Yeah, somehow.
The whole metric system was like reminiscence of like
NBA
skipping Skip and Shannon. They're like, hey, I'm gonna bet like 2 cases of dew, and you're like, what is that even equivalent to?
Momentum.
Do you want cases on that one?
Do you know? Okay.
We can eat right.
Yeah.
Is
that diet?
That's a diet.
So it was like that kind of funny thing going on, where it's like one basket backwards is 2,000 points. Yeah. You're like, what? So they're really down bad. They're out. And so they go in the locker room, and everyone's expecting.
You have the classic locker room scene with like Mike's secret juice.
Right.
Remember that from the first Space.
Exactly.
So okay, what's gonna bring this team together to do something? And like, what did they end up choosing to do?
So what they end up choosing to do is they're like, we need some help. And all I can think about in the back of my head is Michael Jordan.
No.
Miracle, but I found Michael Jordan!
They have to bring Michael Jordan. And then Matt's like, are they going to do it?
At guard, 6'6" from North Carolina.
Are they going to do it? Sylvester the Cat runs out. He's like, I found him! Michael Jordan! And you're like, no fucking
And then like, the music is like the kind of building, the smoke, and you're like, oh, you see Michael Jordan, this is it, LeBron and Michael.
You hear the classic
right, yeah.
You see a silhouette walking through. As I'm watching, I'm like turning to Tyrone, you're like, there's no way. There's no friggin' way.
Yeah.
As you see the silhouette, you're like, I know who this is.
And then it's Michael B. Jordan.
Oh, Jordan!
And when I'd say everyone from 2 years old to 30, 40, everyone was cracking up.
We were just screaming.
Cracking up. It was the funniest thing. It was like such a good misdirect because we all wanted Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
And to do that, it was just... And it's funny, too, because it's another whole basketball joke because everyone has said, oh, LeBron went to the Lakers because he doesn't care about sports, so he's trying to be Michael B. Jordan now. Yeah. So, I mean, that type of, again, like, there was a lot of self-deprecating humor going on with LeBron, and honestly, I was just impressed.
Yeah.
Like, it was a very fun time. Like I said, so, with good comes bad. Mm-hmm. Was there any bad parts that you didn't really like or something that did stand out?
I think we spoke about in the non-spoiler review. Yeah. The music was pretty lackluster. Mm-hmm. That's something you kind of want to, like, carry home with you with these kind of movies, and they didn't really have that. Yeah. Another thing we spoke about offline was... the references and the properties were like really classic Warner Brothers movies that we've all kind of grew up on. Yeah. But it didn't really feel like there was anything for this generation. There wasn't really any references to pull from that kids would get. Yeah. Surprisingly, Rick and Morty kind of fulfilled that.
I know.
Like, that's an adult kind of show. So.
Yeah, so that was, I completely agree. I thought the music, it's a shame because it's like you said, Matt, once you exit a movie, you're like, you want to like have something you can take with you, and every time it comes on, like your buddy's like, time to get up, so like, but we didn't have that moment, which is unfortunate. But the soundtrack actually didn't sound too bad from what we were listening in the car, we're bumping it, but
it didn't sound bad for like songs themselves. Yeah, they just didn't feel like they fit. Like there wasn't a one song. It sounded like a love song, like an R&B love song. Like, at what point in the movie was this like appropriate? Right, yeah, it's just kind of out of the blue. Yeah. Another thing that I was a little disappointed in, it was, I love to see the classic Lola Bunny and Bugs Bunny romance back and forth. Matt talked to me about it offline. He was saying, well, in the past they've used Lola Bunny so much as like this figure to learn. She was a seductive object.
Yeah, and I was like, well, that's true.
One-on-one, doll. On the court. Bugs.
And I the role that she has in this is a lot different, and I could argue in terms of the basketball and the plot that she was more important than she's ever been, and more important than Bugs Bunny in some instances.
I think that's good for the character.
Yeah.
At the same time, it felt like the relationship was so
separated.
They're just like friends now.
Yeah, and I think I understand in the climate that we're in that you don't want to go that old school distance because that was disgusting. No one enjoyed that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think there's a nice novelty to the romance and love that they have, and it made me think of Summer Camp Island, how like Oscar and Hedgehog, they have this relationship and love, but it doesn't have to be like weird or a relationship.
Exactly,
It's friendship, and I think that was something that was missing a little bit. Like it felt like, okay, we know that the Looney Tunes belong together, but there was nothing that they did that made me feel like, oh, this is a family.
Yeah.
Other than the fact that we just know.
Yeah, I think at the end, like Bugs Bunny's like glitched out. You're like, oh fuck, like they're gonna kill Bugs Bunny.
That was a crazy moment.
Scene,
yeah.
That was like, that's something that like is very obvious for people to be like, oh no, like I love you, don't go. But like sometimes there's ways in which you can communicate that like affection like throughout the film.
Right,
so,
right.
Because it felt very one-sided. At the beginning, he's all depressed, everyone's gone.
Yeah.
And then once they get rounded back up, it's like, woohoo! But you don't really get that, like, reciprocation.
And to that last point that you said, so in the end, Bugs is the one that they decide to glitch out. I thought that was an interesting take or moment. I was like, why wouldn't they make it LeBron? And I was thinking in the back of my head, I was like, well, if LeBron's never going to do another Space Jam, I'm assuming, unless they got the Greek Freak for Space Jam 3. But I was thinking, that could be a way that they, let the LeBron character fade away.
Yeah.
But they chose to go with Bugs Bunny, and I was like, as I was watching, I was like, holy they got rid of Bugs.
Yeah. I was
like, dude,
no,
like everyone, like I heard kids sniffling in the audience. They were like, I was like, dude, this is dark. Like, this is
icon.
Yeah, I was like, damn, did we just lose Bugs Bunny in Space Jam 2?
Too many people the last 2 years.
Yeah, I know, for real, man. I'm like, my heart's heavy, bro. Like, you can't just take Bugs, and but that was a good moment, and that was a really, really, really good acting moment from LeBron.
That was.
Because in that moment, like when he's hugging his son, and it was like sad, I thought LeBron was gonna start tearing, which I was gonna be like, whoa, you know, like that. But that was a really good moment from him as far as acting.
I think that was great because the takeaway message, I don't really know what the takeaway message from the first Space Jam was.
Yeah.
I think it was more so just like win basketball. But
Teamwork.
Like, this one was more about like
just be you.
Yeah, I think the first one might have been more about believing in yourself, but like this one is just about being yourself.
Yeah, right.
And I think that like the way in which they made that applicable to like everything. It didn't just have to be basketball.
Right.
And just like I think that's a take home message we try and rail home here at the Circle Club.
Yes,
baby.
sir. My final takeaway thought from Space Jam 2, I thought it was really cool and unique that they showed you don't have to go the same path as everyone else, and you can be cool and unique in doing your own thing. Because typically in the past, especially with sports and man culture, it's like sports, that's the only way to be. And like I thought it was cool that LeBron embraced his son in this film, going a different route with him, and it was like you don't have to have the physical strength, you have mental and
exactly.
skills.
And I think it kind of goes to the motif about Space Jam versus Space Jam 2.
Yeah.
It's like, do your own thing. You don't have to follow the same path, whereas the movie doesn't follow the same path as, like, the original Space Jam. You don't have to follow someone else's path either. So.
Exactly. So that was our review on Space Jam 2. We really enjoyed it. We highly recommend that you go out and see it in the theaters for a bigger experience. I could definitely see how if you saw it at home and you took it a bit more serious, how you might think, oh, this is a little wacky and pacing, or it's just a lot of like spoiler Easter eggy type things. But like I said, take a chill pill, relax, and enjoy the show.
If you're a basketball fan, you definitely should watch this movie just for the hell of it.
And if you don't like LeBron James, you should watch the movie because I think you'll find this guy's actually kind of charming. And all right, that's a review.